She disappeared on the night of the blood moon. One moment Sarah stood beside me in the throne room, her hand in mine, the Luna's crown fresh on her brow. The next, gone. Vanished as if she'd never existed at all. No body, no trail, no scent to follow beyond the castle gates. Just a note in her handwriting, 6 words that destroyed me. I cannot be what you need. For 3 years I searched, sent my best trackers into every corner of the kingdom, offered rewards that could buy entire territories, tortured myself with 1,000 different explanations, each one worse than the last. Had she been taken? Killed? Had she run from me? From us? Because I had failed her in some fundamental way I couldn't see? The mate bond sat in my chest like a sword through the heart. Oh, not severed. That would have killed us both. But stretched so thin I could barely feel her pulse on the other end. Alive. Distant. Deliberately hiding. After 2 years of official searching, my council demanded I declare her dead. Take a new mate. Secure the bloodline. I refused. After 3 years, they stopped asking. Started looking at me with pity instead. I didn't want pity. I wanted answers. So I did what an alpha king should never do. I left my throne, wrapped myself in rags that stank of poverty and hard labor, and went to find her myself. Chapter 1. The Borderlands. The village of Thornwick squatted at the kingdom's edge like a wounded animal trying to die quietly. 50 ramshackle houses, a tavern that served ale thick enough to chew, and a population that looked at strangers with the kind of suspicion that came from living where the king's law ended and survival began. Perfect place to disappear. I'd been here 3 days, working as a farmhand for a man too old to do his own plowing, sleeping in a barn that leaked rain, eating bread so stale it could be used as a weapon. Hiding my scent wasn't easy. Alpha pheromones didn't just vanish because you rolled in dirt and wore peasant clothes. But I'd learned a few tricks over the years. Herbs that masked scent. Suppression techniques that dimmed the natural dominance radiating from my skin. To these people, I was just another displaced worker. Another man with a strong back and no questions asked. I was splitting wood behind the tavern when I felt it. A pulse through the mate bond. Faint, but unmistakable. Or she was here. My hands stilled on the axe. My wolf surged forward, desperate, clawing at my control. 3 years. 3 years of barely feeling her. And now, the bond pulsed again. Closer. I forced myself to breathe slowly, to lower the axe, to not shift and tear through the village following that thread until I found her. Oi, stranger. The tavern keeper's voice cut through my focus. You gonna stand there all day, or you gonna finish that wood? I turned to answer, and saw her. Just for a second. A flash of copper hair disappearing around the corner of the blacksmith's shop. A worn cloak, boots caked with mud. But I knew that walk. That particular tilt of her head when she was checking her surroundings. Sarah. I was moving before I could stop myself. Around the building, and down the narrow alley between the blacksmith and the tanner. The alley was empty, but her scent lingered, faint under layers of concealment. But there, honey and wild sage, and something that made my wolf want to throw his head back and howl. I pressed my palm against the rough stone wall and closed my eyes. Where are you? As if in answer, the mate bond pulled, not back toward the village, north, into the forest. Chapter 2. The Den. I followed the bond for 2 miles into dense woods where the trees grew so thick the afternoon sun barely penetrated. Tracker's instinct told me to move silent. Hunter's instinct told me to move fast. Alpha instinct told me she knew I was coming. The bond had grown stronger with every step, singing in my chest like a plucked string. She was close now. Was so close I could almost... A child's laugh cut through the forest quiet. I froze. Then another laugh. And another. High, bright, unmistakably young. Children. I moved toward the sound with my heart in my throat. The den was built into the base of a massive oak, its entrance concealed by hanging moss and carefully arranged brush. I wouldn't have seen it at all if not for the bond leading me straight to it. And playing in the small clearing before the entrance, 3 cubs. Wolf pups, maybe 3 years old, tumbling over each other in the kind of rough play that would have gotten them scolded in any proper packhouse. Their fur ranged from deep russet to silver gray, all 3 of them small and quick, and one of them turned toward me. Golden eyes, unmistakable, spurning gold that had marked my bloodline for 15 generations. My eyes. The cub yipped at its siblings. All 3 turned to look at me. All 3 had golden eyes. The world tilted. "Run!" The voice came from the den entrance, low, commanding, absolutely cold. Sarah stepped into the light. She looked different. Thinner, harder, with scars on her forearms that hadn't been there 3 years ago. Her copper hair was shorter, tied back in a practical braid. She wore hunter's leather and carried a bow already nocked with an arrow pointed directly at my chest. But her eyes, those green eyes I'd dreamed about for 3 years, were exactly the same, except for the absolute lack of recognition in them. "I said run," she repeated, "before I put this arrow through your heart." "Syrah, I don't know you." Her voice was flat. "And you have 5 seconds to leave before I assume you're a threat to my cubs." My cubs. Not the cubs. My cubs. I raised my hand slowly. "I'm not here to hurt anyone." 4 seconds. "I'm looking for someone. A woman who disappeared 3 years ago. Copper hair, green eyes, about your height." 3 seconds. "Named Sarah. She is my mate." The arrow didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Just for a second. Recognition. Then it was gone, replaced by something colder and infinitely more dangerous. 2 seconds. Behind her, the cubs had gone still, watching. One of them, the smallest, with silver-gray fur, whimpered softly. "Mama?" it said in that high, uncertain voice cubs used when they sensed their parents' fear. Sarah's jaw tightened. "Inside! Now! All 3 of you!" "But Mama?" "Now! Kira!" The cubs scrambled into the den. I heard them inside, their small sounds of confusion and worry. Sarah's eyes never left mine. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Right now, before they catch your scent." "Before who catches my scent?" "Before you destroy everything I've built to keep them safe." Her voice shook slightly. "Please, Darius. If you ever cared about me at all, leave." Hearing my name in her voice after 3 years of silence broke something in my chest. "I searched for you," I said. My voice came out rougher than I intended. "For 3 years. I never stopped." "I know. Then why—" I gestured helplessly at the den, at the forest, some at the distance between us. "Why did you leave? Why hide from me? Were you—" the question I'd been terrified to ask. "Were you taken? Forced to run?" Sarah laughed. It was the saddest sound I'd ever heard. "No one took me, Darius. I left. I chose to leave. I chose to vanish and hide, and build a life where you would never find me." Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "And I would do it again. 1,000 times. I would do it again." The mate bond between us twisted like a knife. "Why?" "Because they're yours," she said simply. "The cubs, Kira, Finn, and Ash. All 3 of them. And if anyone in your kingdom knew they existed, if anyone knew you had heirs with golden eyes proving your bloodline, they would kill them." The world stopped. "What?" "You heard me." Sarah's voice was steady despite the tears now streaming down her face. "Your brother made it very clear what would happen if I ever bore your children. Especially children who could challenge his claim to be your heir." My blood turned to ice. "Marcus. Oh, good. You do remember you have a treacherous bastard for a brother." Her laugh was bitter. "He came to me the night before our Luna ceremony. Told me in very specific detail what would happen to any cubs I conceived. How they would disappear. How I would watch them die before I followed." "Sarah?" I didn't believe him at first. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know what I thought. That you would protect us. That being Luna meant something. That our mate bond was stronger than politics. She lowered the bow slightly. Then I got pregnant. 3 cubs, all at once, and I felt them inside me, felt their little heartbeats, and I knew Marcus would make good on his threat the moment they were born. I would have protected you, I said, all of you, with my life. Against your own brother? Against half your council who wanted a stronger Luna from a better bloodline? She shook her head. You're a good man, Darius. A good alpha. But you're one man against a court full of vipers, and I wasn't willing to bet my children's lives on your ability to outmaneuver them all. The truth hit me like a physical blow. She hadn't left because she didn't love me. She'd left because she loved our children more. So you vanished, I said slowly. Hid the pregnancy. Has gave birth alone. Raised them in secret. I had help. Sarah's voice softened slightly. There are those who remember what it means to honor a mate bond, who believe cubs are sacred regardless of politics. She paused. But yes. Essentially, I've spent 3 years living like a ghost, moving from place to place, never staying long enough for anyone to ask questions about the Omega with 3 golden-eyed cubs. I looked at the den, at the careful camouflage, at the worn path that led deeper into the forest. You can't keep running forever. Watch me. Sarah. No. She raised the bow again. You need to leave. Now, before someone sees you here. Before they connect you to us. Before everything I've sacrificed becomes worthless. I'm not leaving you again. You don't have a choice. Like hell I don't. I took a step forward. I'm their father, Sarah. Those are my cubs, my children, and you're my mate. I've spent 3 years with a hole in my chest where you used to be. I'm not walking away. Even if staying gets them killed. The question hung between us like a blade. From inside the den, a small voice called out, Mama? Is the man going to hurt us? Sarah's expression shattered. No, baby, she called back. No one's going to hurt you, I promise. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since I'd appeared in her clearing. Can you make that same promise? She asked quietly. Can you guarantee their safety if you claim them? Can you look me in the eye and swear they won't become targets the moment the court knows they exist? I wanted to say yes, wanted to promise her the world, but she deserved the truth. No, I said. I can't guarantee anything. Not while Marcus has supporters in the court. Not while there are those who'd rather see the bloodline die than continue through cubs born to an Omega they deemed unsuitable. Sarah nodded slowly. Then you have your answer. But I can try. I took another step forward. I can fight. I can clean house. I can execute every last traitor who would raise a hand against my family. And in the meantime, while you're fighting, what happens to them? I didn't have an answer. She lowered the bow completely. That's what I thought. She turned toward the den. Goodbye, Darius. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it won't be here. Sarah, wait! A howl split the air. Not a wolf's howl, a hunter's horn. We both froze. Sarah's head snapped toward the sound. No, they can't. They shouldn't be able to... Another horn. Closer. They're tracking someone, I said, my mind already calculating angles and distances. But who? Her eyes met mine. You, she breathed. They're tracking you. Someone recognized your scent. Someone knew you were here. The third horn came from the west, the fourth from the south. We were surrounded. Inside, Sarah said sharply. Now. I can lead them away. Inside the den. Now. She was already moving, grabbing my arm with surprising strength and pulling me toward the entrance. They've already got your scent. Your running will just confirm you're hiding something. But the cubs are about to meet their father properly. She pushed me through the entrance. Try not to make a terrible first impression. Chapter 3. The Den. The inside of the den was larger than it looked from outside. carved into the earth beneath the oak's roots, supported by ancient wood and stone. Furs piled in one corner for sleeping. A small fire pit in the center with a carefully designed smoke vent. Shelves holding preserved food and herbs and small carved toys. This wasn't a temporary shelter. This was a home. And huddled in the far corner, 3 pairs of golden eyes stared at me with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Mama?" The smallest cub, Kira, Sarah had called her, pressed against her siblings. "Who is he?" Sarah crouched beside them, her voice calm despite the horn calls getting closer outside. "This is..." She paused, looked at me. "This is your father." 3 small jaws dropped open in perfect unison. "Our father?" The largest cub, Finn, I guessed, stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "But you said our father was far away, that he couldn't find us." "I was wrong." Sarah's voice was soft. "He found us anyway." The middle cub, Ash, tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that was absolutely my own expression reflected back at me. "You have gold eyes," he said. "Like us." "Yes," I managed. My voice sounded strange. "Like you." "Are you really our papa?" The question hit me harder than any physical blow. "Yes," I said. "I am. I'm sorry I wasn't here before. I didn't know you existed. But I'm here now." "Are you going to stay?" Kira asked hopefully. I looked at Sarah. She was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. The horn calls turned into shouts. "They're at the perimeter," Sarah said sharply. She moved to the entrance, peering out through the concealment. 8 of them, maybe 10. They've got tracking hounds. "Let me go out there," I said. You can what? Fight 10 trained soldiers? You're disguised as a peasant, remember? The moment you fight like an alpha, they'll know exactly who you are." She grabbed her bow. "And then they'll know these cubs are yours. And Marcus wins." She was right. Damn her. She was right. "Then what do we do?" Sarah looked at the cubs. At me. At the world closing in around us. Then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. Not a happy smile. A warrior's smile. The smile of someone who'd been backed into a corner and decided to come out fighting. "We stop running," she said. "We stop hiding. And we do what we should have done 3 years ago." "Which is?" "We go to war." She grabbed a pack from the corner and started throwing things into it with practiced efficiency. "Finn, Ash, grab your travel furs. Kira, get the food pack. We're leaving." "But Mama..." "Now, my darlings, we don't have time." The cubs scrambled to obey, their small faces scared, but trusting. I grabbed Sarah's arm. "What's the plan?" "The plan," she said, still packing, "is we stop letting them control our lives. We stop letting fear dictate our choices. We take our cubs, we march back to your castle, and we dare anyone to try and stop us." "Sarah, that's insane." "Is it?" She turned to face me fully. "What's the alternative? Keep running? Keep hiding? Raise our children in dens and ditches, always looking over our shoulders? Never letting them know their heritage? Never letting them be what they are? They could be killed. They could be killed here." She gestured at the entrance where voices were getting closer. "At least if we go back on our terms. At least if we fight together." The shouts were almost at the den now. "You really want to do this?" I asked. "I want to stop being afraid." Sarah's eyes were blazing. "I want our children to grow up knowing their father. I want to sleep beside my mate without terror eating me alive. I want..." Her voice broke. "I want what we should have had 3 years ago." I looked at the cubs, at these 3 perfect, impossible, golden-eyed miracles I'd never known existed. At Sarah, my mate, the woman who'd sacrificed everything to keep them safe, the woman who was asking me to fight for them. "Then we fight," I said. I pulled off my peasant's cloak, reached for the suppression herbs I'd been using, and crushed them beneath my heel. Let my scent, true alpha, undiluted, unmistakable, flood the den. "Whoa," Finn breathed. "You smell like thunder." "Your papa," Sarah said with grim satisfaction, "is an alpha king." and he's about to remind everyone exactly what that means. The entrance to the den exploded inward. 4 guards poured in, weapons drawn, clearly expecting to find, I don't know what. Certainly not an alpha king standing between them and a den full of cubs. They froze the moment my scent hit them. "Your Majesty?" The lead guard's voice was barely a whisper. "Hello, Marcus," I said pleasantly. "Funny seeing you here." Because of course my brother had come personally. He'd probably been tracking me for days, waiting for the perfect moment to... His eyes found Sarah. Found the cubs. Understanding dawned on his face like sunrise, followed immediately by rage. "You," he breathed. "You're the Omega who vanished. And those..." He stared at the cubs, at their golden eyes. "Those are his. Mine," I confirmed. "Every one of them. My mate. My cubs. My heirs." Marcus's hand went to his sword. "You can't be serious. You're going to claim them? Acknowledge bastards born to an Omega who..." "Finish that sentence," I said very quietly. "And I will rip out your throat before you draw your next breath." Alpha command flooded the den. Pure, undiluted dominance that drove every guard to their knees. Every guard except Marcus. My brother stood shaking with rage and terrible understanding. "You want them," he said. "You actually want them. More than I've wanted anything in my life. Even knowing it means I'll spend every day trying to end them." The truth, finally spoken aloud. "Especially knowing that," I said. "Because now I know exactly who my enemy is. No more wondering. No more guessing. Just you, brother. You and whoever's foolish enough to stand with you." I took a step forward. "And I need to be very clear about something. Those cubs? They're not negotiable. They're not political pieces. They're my children. And the Omega who bore them? She's my mate, my Luna, my queen." I let power roll through my voice like thunder. "So here's how this works. We're leaving this forest. We're going back to the castle. We're claiming the throne that's rightfully ours. And anyone who tries to stop us will learn exactly why I'm called the Alpha King." Marcus stared at me, at Sarah, at the cubs huddled behind her. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "Probably." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "But I'll regret it while protecting my family, which is more than you can say." I gestured to the entrance. "Now get out, and tell your supporters that the bloodline is secured. The king has heirs, and anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally." Marcus's jaw worked. For a moment I thought he might actually attack. Then he spun on his heel and stalked out. The guards scrambled to follow. Silence fell over the den. "That," Sarah said into the quiet, "was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest." "Probably both." She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was like light breaking through clouds. "You're really going to do this? Fight the whole court for us?" "Yes. Even though it might cost you everything." "Sarah." I crossed to her, cupped her face in my hands. "I lost everything the night you disappeared. These past 3 years have been an exercise in going through motions, pretending to be alive while feeling dead inside." I touched my forehead to hers. "So, yes, I'll fight. I'll burn the whole kingdom down if I have to." "Because you 4? I glanced at the cubs. "You're not everything I have. You're everything I am." She kissed me, fierce and desperate and 3 years overdue, tasting of salt and tears and coming home. When we broke apart, Kira was tugging on my cloak. "Papa?" She looked up at me with those devastating golden eyes. "Are we really going to a castle?" I scooped her up. She fit perfectly in my arms. "Yes, little one, we're going home." Epilogue. 3 months later. The coronation took place under the full moon, in the great courtyard where 1,000 wolves gathered to witness their Luna's crowning. Sarah stood beside me in silver robes, the Luna's crown finally where it belonged, on her head. The same crown she'd worn for one night 3 years ago, before vanishing into the dark. This time, no one would take it from her. Marcus was gone. Exiled after we'd uncovered the full extent of his plotting. Half the council had gone with him, the ones who'd supported his claim, who'd threatened my mate, who'd thought cubs were expendable. The new council knelt before us now. Loyal, tested, proven. And at our feet, 3 golden-eyed cubs sat with varying degrees of patience through the ceremony. Finn kept fidgeting with his formal robes. Ash was trying to catch a butterfly. Kira had made it exactly 10 minutes before demanding to be held, and was now perched on my shoulders, her small hands tangled in my hair. I'd never been happier in my life. "The bloodline is secured," the high priest intoned. "The heirs are claimed. Long live the Alpha King and his Luna!" "Long live the king and queen!" the crowd roared back. I looked at Sarah. She was crying, but smiling. "Worth it?" I asked quietly. "Every moment," she said. "Every fear. Every sacrifice. Worth it." That night, after the cubs were finally asleep in their new chambers, Sarah and I stood on the balcony overlooking the kingdom. "I never thought I'd stand here again," she said quietly. "Never thought I'd be able to stop running." "You didn't stop running," I corrected. "You stopped running alone." She turned in my arms to face me. "I'm sorry," she said, "for leaving, for not trusting you to protect us, for 3 years of—" I kissed her silent. "Don't," I said when we parted. "Don't apologize for keeping our cubs safe. You did what you thought you had to do, and you did it perfectly. Look at them. Healthy, happy, alive." "We did it," she corrected. "Together?" "Together," I agreed. Somewhere in the castle, a cub cried out. Nightmare, or bad dream, or just wanting Mama and Papa. We moved as one, heading inside to comfort our children, our family. The family I'd searched for desperately and found in a hidden den in the borderlands. The family that had been worth every moment of anguish. The family that no one, not Marcus, not the council, not fate itself, would ever take from me again.